As always, I've been watching a lot of movies and TV shows in my life here in Mae Sot. I'm a big fan of both, and we seem to be in kind of the golden age of television, that's for sure. There's so many good shows out there to watch. There almost isn't enough time in the day. But I do find that my addiction to television and movies dovetails nicely with YouTube, making YouTube videos, because there are lots of times when you can't really do anything. You're copying video files to your phone. It's going to take 30 or 40 minutes to finish, and you just simply watch a little bit of a TV show or a movie while you're waiting. And then you flip back and forth between your TV show and working on your YouTube video. It's a nice combination. Let's see, what have I been watching in a quick and simplified pop culture roundup? In terms of TV shows, I watched The Undoing with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail. It's a good show, I'll say that. Hugh Grant, of course, is always watchable. He's got so much charm and so much on-camera charisma. If he's doing a comedy, romantic comedy, a drama, or in this case, a murder mystery police procedural, he's always good. And the fact that he was in The Undoing, it's the main reason that I wanted to watch it. Nicole Kidman is good, but she isn't as compelling an actor for me as, say, Hugh Grant. Sometimes she does really well, sometimes not quite as well in movies. But she's good, so I watched The Undoing. As I said, murder mystery, police procedural. I won't say anything more than that, because it would probably give away too much of the plot. Well, I've reached this intersection, and I've been here before. This is where I turned, well, I didn't really turn, but I was following 3002 to go to Mae Sot. I stopped here to do a little bit of a chat on camera, in fact. So here, I'm turning left, and from this point onward, I'm going to be in a new part of the countryside around Mae Sot. I've never gone down this road before. And being on a nice small road, I can go as slowly as I like. I also watched another kind of murder mystery police procedural, but in a completely different style, called The Flight Attendant. And I wanted to watch this show for very obvious reasons. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, okay. I thought I already ran into a dead end. But no, I just have to turn here. Oh boy. I might be getting myself in trouble right from the get-go. I never did look at this route on a satellite view, so it's already turned into kind of a dirt road. I'm going to stop and take a look at satellite view. One big difference about today is that I finally got data for my phone, which I think is probably the most important thing I could do. For my last couple of videos where I did a little bit of more wandering around the countryside, people in the comments gave me quite a bit of good advice about how to prepare for this better. You know, bring water, and asking me questions like, what are you going to do if you're out there and you have a breakdown? What are your contingency plans? And I don't really have any. But probably the most basic thing I can do is just have data for my phone. So if I do break down out here, at least I can call somebody. I can send a message to somebody. I can communicate. Without data, you're basically stuck. You can't do anything. So what I did for today's trip is I made sure to go get data. So now I can check Google Maps, but I can also zoom in on satellite view and look at the terrain and see where I'm going. So that's what I'm going to do now. Turns out that I was completely turned around. I had kind of jumped the gun on where I was supposed to make a turn, and I turned too early. I was at one intersection when I thought I was at a different intersection. So, uh-oh, I may. Already another map check. Turns out that this was the road I want. This is the one where I was supposed to turn. And as you can see, it is nicely paved. It's nice, as I keep saying, being out here in the countryside. Slow pace of life, and you get the variety of traffic as well. Oh, there's a very nice temple I just passed. On a main highway or main road, of course, you've just usually got cars and trucks, buses zooming past you. It's always the same traffic. But here you get some farm vehicles, kind of unusual sights. That's kind of nice. I was just saying that I also watched The Flight Attendant, kind of a brand new show. There's only been one season so far, so I watched season 1, and I wanted to watch it for the obvious reason that the star was Kaylee Cuoco, and she plays Penny in The Big Bang Theory. And I've watched all of The Big Bang Theory, of course, and I know the characters quite well, and I'm very familiar with Kaylee Cuoco and who she is. And now that The Big Bang Theory is over, I was curious to see if she would go on and keep acting. Financially, of course, she has no need to. I'm sure she's like a trillionaire from The Big Bang Theory. But yeah, she wants to go on working, and I didn't make a lot of mental notes about these shows that I'm talking about, so I don't have a lot of information about them. But I think she was also involved in the behind the camera stuff. She might have been a producer for The Flight Attendant, or even a co-director or something like that. But it's a pretty good show. It's worth watching just on its own for what it is, even if you're not interested in Kaylee Cuoco's career. As I said, it's a murder mystery, but it has kind of a strong emphasis on style. Maybe I would say too much emphasis on style, because they do a lot of fancy camera work, similar to, I don't know if you remember one of the very first Hulk movies. They tried to make it look like a comic book with a lot of different comic book frames and a lot of fancy panning and swiping and special effects as they move from one frame to another, from one scene to another. They do that quite a bit in The Flight Attendant, and I don't see that it was necessary. It didn't add anything to the show, and I found it really distracting sometimes. It was just way too much style. They didn't need all that crazy style. They could have just told the story without all those weird transitions and frames and strange things like that. And the show was also a little bit of a jumble. Like, it didn't quite know what it wanted to be, so sometimes it was a goofy comedy, which of course Kaylee Cuoco is quite good at. That's her forte, goofy comedies like The Big Bang Theory. So sometimes the TV series was like a goofy comedy playing up slapstick. You almost expected a laugh track to kick in sometimes, but then it almost went like a film noir kind of a murder mystery style, like you almost expected it to be in black and white. And then it started doing almost like dream sequences and flashbacks, and then it started to seem like almost a David Lynch kind of production. So tonally it was a bit uneven, I thought, going from slapstick comedy to film noir to David Lynch to comic book weird stylish touches. And it was almost a bit too much, an embarrassment of riches in a way. But I still enjoyed it quite a bit. Goes down easy. It's not hard to watch. You don't have to think too much. You just enjoy the episode and then move on to the next, like you've opened a bag of chocolate covered peanuts and you just pop them into your mouth and zoom through them one by one. Fun way to pass the time. So yeah, it was a pretty good show overall, I thought. Wow, what a great place to be driving around. Nice curvy road, interesting houses all around me. A lot of farming activity going on. Oh, one thing I just realized. Oh, I should have thought of that. Since I got a haircut, the back of my neck is now exposed to the sun for the first time in a long time. So I think I'm going to end up with a pretty bad burn back there. And I didn't, in all the new ways I prepared for this trip, I didn't pack any sunblock or anything like that. So I think I'm going to get a sunburn on the back of my neck. Speaking of preparations for this day trip, or perhaps the lack thereof, I mentioned the most important thing, which is I now have data for my phone. But this is a funny story too, because I'm thinking I should call myself Mr. Adapter or something like that, because my entire life seems to be the search, an endless search for adapters, because I bought data for this phone because it has my Thailand SIM card in it. But the battery does not last long in this phone anymore. This is the phone I want to replace with my new phone. So I thought, okay, now that I have data for this SIM card, I'm going to move the SIM card from this phone into my new phone, my new Xiaomi Redmi Note 9 Pro. And then I'll have a supercharged phone, good battery, good camera, good for editing video, and I'll have my SIM card in that new phone. So I took the SIM card out of this one. I tried to put it in my new phone, but it doesn't fit in the SIM card tray because that one requires the bigger SIM card. I've forgotten the names of them. There's 3 different sizes, I think. And when you buy a SIM card, it comes in a set of nested adapters. And to get it in this phone, I had to pop out the tiniest one to get it in this SIM card tray. And then when I tried to put it in the SIM card tray of my new phone, it just falls right through because it's too small. I need that adapter to surround it. And I do have all those adapters for my old SIM cards, but like everything else in my life, it's all in storage in Kuala Lumpur. I don't have them with me. I just didn't happen to pack them. So I tried to move my SIM card from this phone to my new phone, but I need an adapter in order to do it. So a new search for a new adapter. I'm also carrying, which I used to do in the past, a little flashlight. This is just a little, little Petzl headlamp, 3 AAA batteries in there. I mainly use it for reading. You're inside your hotel room and you need a light on your head to do things with, going out to the bathroom if it happens to be outside or something like that. But it's a pretty powerful light. These things are surprisingly strong, despite how small they are. So I do have this with me all the time now. And one thing I never mentioned before, which is quite interesting, is that when I was in Kuala Lumpur last time, I bought an emergency whistle. Check out that bad boy. And I have this with me all the time. This is always in my knapsack. I've never had to use it because I haven't faced an emergency. But this brand is called Windstorm. If you look up their website, this particular whistle is one of the loudest whistles in the world. If you blow on this hard, and I'm not going to blow on it here because it would scare people around me, I think, and blow out my eardrums. It's a really loud whistle. Yeah, super loud. Plus, it can work when it's full of water. So if you were out surfing or kayaking or whatever and your boat turns over, other whistles, when they fill with water, they don't work. This one will still make a sound even when it's full of water. So that's one of the advantages of the windstorm. I'll make a little bit of a sound with it. You know, how can I not? So that's just a tiny breath of air. And if I really blow, I remember when I first bought this, I drove to the store with a friend of mine in Kuala Lumpur, and he told me while we're in the car driving away from the outdoor gear shop, he says, well, show me how it works, blow on it. So I did, and I didn't give it a full blow, but enough air to make it really sound, and it blew out both of our eardrums practically. It was so loud. So if you're lost in a cave, you're lost on a trail, and you need to be rescued, you can just have this and just blow it every few minutes, and then people will be able to find you. But that's an emergency whistle. Not a bad thing to have. And I think every knapsack these days, like this Osprey knapsack, it has a whistle built into one of the buckles. So I have a whistle with me anyway in one of the buckles, but that one wouldn't be as loud as this one. Most importantly, I got so many comments about the importance of hydration. There it is. So a liter and a half of ice cold drinking water. Not so ice cold anymore, but it's still pretty cold. Yeah, but I'm so weird with this stuff. 30 seconds ago, I would have told you that I wasn't thirsty. But the second this hit the back of my throat, I'm like, man, I'm thirsty. I end up hungry and thirsty, and I don't even know about it. So I have water with me today. This will get me through most of the day. And of course, I'm not in wilderness here. This is Thailand after all. I pass tons of little shops along the way, so I can always buy water when if this one runs out, though I don't think it will. The reason I stopped here, there's my scooter at the side of the road, was actually to change the batteries in the 2 GoPros. But I'm actually in quite an interesting spot. I just looked across the road and there's an interesting farmer's field. Thought I'd go take a quick look at it. So there's the field, and it looks like kind of a mixture of plants, mainly banana trees, of course, but I also see, papaya as well. So yeah, I got some, young banana trees here. I don't know how long banana trees live and can produce fruit. So I don't know how often they have to plant these. But what caught my eye was how they've added this tin foil covering around what I assume are the banana buds. Oh yeah, there they are there. So there's the young bananas just beginning to grow. And I guess over the years and decades and centuries, however long it's been, they've learned that they get better fruit if they protect them at a certain point in their life, whether they're protecting it from the sun or from insects or birds or anything like that. I'm not really sure. Maybe a combination of all of them. And all throughout here, I see mixed in are papaya trees. I'm such a dummy when it comes to fruit. I was thinking, are these mangoes or are they papayas? But I'm pretty sure those are papayas, right? I mean, yeah, don't make too much fun of me that I don't know the difference between papayas and mangoes when they're on the tree. I also blame it on the GoPro, because whenever I'm filming with the GoPro, my IQ drops considerably, and tons of things that I would know in normal life, I suddenly forget. My brain just can't come up with these obvious facts. And there's something else here too. Oh, these are the young banana trees. I noticed these sprinkler poles, and every young banana tree, this one down here, has a dedicated sprinkler pole right beside it. You can see that big line of blue sprinkler poles. So they have an irrigation system for the bananas. There's another one of these Aluminum coverings, protecting all those lovely bananas on the inside. Very cool. So that's where I just happened to stop at the side of the road. Oh, this one isn't even tin foil. What is this one made out of? Oh yeah, kind of. Oh yeah, so it's got foil on the inside. More bananas there. So I guess these are bags that looks like pet food came in that bag. So they're reusing bags that other products came in. Huh, interesting. All right. Interesting little detour into a field. Yeah, bananas are just such amazing fruit, amazing plants. There's my scooter. I didn't go too far away from it. Time to get back on the road. Back on the road, there's the banana trees off to my right that you're looking at right now. From what I can tell from Google Maps, this road continues like this for 2 or 3 kilometers. Nice and smooth, going through farming country until I get to a main road. And at that main road, I turn left, and that should take me to the shrine that is the goal for this journey. In terms of other TV shows, I also watch season 4 of The Crown. And I don't have much to say about The Crown because it is so good. There's not much point saying anything at all. It's practically a perfect piece of television. It's a perfect piece of entertainment. The acting, the sets, the production, I mean, just everything about it is so good. There's nothing to talk about. Just watch it and enjoy it and move on with your life. This particular season has a few interesting twists, though, because it has Margaret Thatcher. And I watched the entire show mesmerized by Margaret Thatcher, and I had no idea who the actress was. No clue at all. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't know. So I would recommend watching this show and not worrying about any of the production details or anything like that. And later on, after you're done, then you can go back and see who played Margaret Thatcher. It was such a surprise to me. I just thought it was just amazing. I also watched, or I am watching season 5 of The Expanse, which just started. And The Expanse is also a kind of show that for me is sort of almost above criticism. There are some things you could criticize about it, but there's so many other things that are so great about it that critiquing anything almost feels small-minded. For example, when you watch season 1, it's really hard to understand the setup to the plot and the characters, who is who and how they relate to each other, and exactly what is going on is really hard to understand. It's hard to get hooked into the show at the beginning. So you really have to make a decision to stick with it until you get up to speed. And once you do get up to speed and the show gets up to speed, then it's amazing. It's such a great show. But even offering that little bit of criticism feels small-minded, as I said. If you like science fiction, you're into good characters, good storytelling, it's just an amazing show. Again, I could offer maybe a small criticism of season 5 in that our main characters that we've come to know and love so much, they're all separated. They're all separate from each other and having individual adventures, and they're not on the Rossi. And of course, to me, that is the key to the whole show. Having this amazing group of guys, this amazing group of people together on the Rocinante. And the Rossi, of course, is like another character in the show. Such an amazing ship. And having all of the characters separated and not on the Rossi and doing different things, it takes a lot away from the show. But I assume that during this season, they will eventually come back together. So I'm letting that go for now, and I'm just enjoying the show for what it is, with the confidence that eventually the group will be reunited at some point, and they'll all be back on the Rossi at some point. So yeah, great show. I'm enjoying it very much. And I also just started watching season 4 of Fargo. Fargo is also such a great show, has so many amazing things about it. Every season is special in its own way. That criticizing it, again, feels kind of small-minded. I've heard people say that season 4 is the weakest of the 4 seasons, but if that's a weak season, I don't care. It's still great. I'm enjoying it so much. Such a strong, confident piece of storytelling. Yeah, I love it. In terms of movies, I've certainly had some interesting experiences with the movies. Oh, I hope you can see some of the scenery that I'm passing by. So interesting out here. The farming and the farmhouses. When I was leaving this morning and I told my landlady where I was going, she said that I would be passing by a sugar cane processing plant. So I'm looking forward to that, if in fact we understood each other about where I was going and this sugar cane processing plant really exists. Oh no, am I already hooking up with the main road? It looks like that's it, right up ahead already. I've been going as slow as possible just to absorb the atmosphere. But I think this road is not really such a big road either, so it still should stay interesting. Whoa. Look at this field off to the left. And what are those? I know it's a type of fruit, right? Papaya or mango trees? Young ones? Very cool. Yeah, I think I've already reached the road where I have to turn left. I don't have, oh, yeah. I don't really have a choice, do I? I can either go right or left. And pretty sure I have to go left. I don't have to go very far to reach the temple, so I'm going to throttle back and go as slowly as possible once again. As I was saying, I watched a couple of movies as well, and they've been quite an interesting selection. I'll just stick with the main ones. I watched Tenet, the newest Christopher Nolan film, and a lot of people were talking a lot about Tenet. Whether you loved it or hated it, whether you didn't understand it or pretended to understand it, it doesn't matter. It was kind of a big movie event, so you kind of had to watch it if you wanted to keep up with pop culture news. So I watched Tenet, and I have to say that I fall into the category of people who were not impressed. It's an incredible filmmaking achievement, sure. The idea is interesting, as everyone might already know. It's kind of a time travel movie, but not really. It's more about moving forward in time while certain objects and people have been inverted. So it looks like they're moving forward in your time, but in fact, they're moving backward because they're moving forward in their own time. But to you, it looks like they're going backwards. They call that inverted. So these people and these objects have, through some technical wizardry, been inverted. And just to keep that idea straight in your head, probably took 5 years off Christopher Nolan's life to figure this out and to map it out and to keep it straight in his own head while he filmed it. And some of the set pieces were pretty amazing. There's a heist involving a giant jet that is pretty amazing. There are fight scenes that are choreographed to have one person going forward, one person going backward, and yet they're all moving forward in the same time. There are other sequences, one in particular at the very end, a giant fight scene involving two groups of soldiers moving in different directions through time that are somehow coordinated after the fact. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, and none of it makes any sense at all if you try to think about it. But at the same time, when you just watch it, it's pretty weird and wild to watch it and just sort of get the mood of it. But as incredible an achievement as it is as a technical filmmaking accomplishment, it doesn't work for me as entertainment at all. It's boring. You sit there watching it, you never get pulled into the story, you don't care about any of the characters, you don't care about what's going on, you don't care about what the stakes are, you're just not emotionally engaged in any way. It's really more of an academic exercise of watching something on the screen and trying to figure out what it all means. It has all the emotional weight of looking at architectural plans for a building and trying to figure out what the final building looks like just based on looking at the schematics. That's really what it's like. Certain scenes here and there are kind of compelling and kind of interesting, but none of it hangs together in any way, and the plot just jumps around all over the place. It's not grounded in reality in any way. Our hero, in one scene, he could be on one side of the planet. In the next scene, he's in India. You have no idea how he got there, how long it took for him to get there. And then he does something there, and then you blink your eye, and then he's somewhere in Europe on an island, and you have no idea how he got there, or what he's doing there, or why he's there. You don't know who the people are that he's dealing with. People are fighting, but you don't really know who is fighting who, or what they're fighting for. It's all just, none of it makes any sense, and it's not engaging emotionally for me. But I would still recommend watching it just because it was such a big movie experience and everybody's talking about it so much. So that is Tenet, which I think is not a good movie but still worth watching. And right after I watched Tenet, I watched Wonder Woman 84. And Wonder Woman 84 is similar to Tenet in that it is a big budget film. I think it cost $200 million to make, and there was so much hype about it. Patty Jenkins as the director, and she directed the first Wonder Woman, which most people thought was pretty good. It was kind of saving the DC universe because Wonder Woman was, good enough for people. So a lot of hope was placed on Wonder Woman 84. A lot of people were looking forward to it. A lot of money was spent on it. A lot of talent went into it. And then, of course, it was interrupted by the pandemic. How to release it in theaters to make its money back. A lot of drama involved. And then, after all of that, which makes it a compelling movie to watch, I thought it was one of the worst movies I have ever seen. It was so bad. So bad that to me it's not really even worth talking about how bad it is. It's just a bad movie, and there's no point watching it. It opens with this scene on the island where the Amazonians live, where Wonder Woman grew up as a little girl. Themyscira, I think it's called. And there's some sort of a bizarre scene where Wonder Woman as a girl is competing with fully grown Amazon women in some sort of a agility race, kind of a obstacle course they have to fight through that involves shooting arrows, riding horses, swinging, climbing. And the thing goes on for, 10, 15 minutes, and it has nothing to do with the movie. You have no idea why they're showing this to you. It's really boring as it goes along, and you don't care about it. And then when it's over, you're like, okay, that was done. And then the movie starts. And you might argue there's kind of a thematic connection between those 15 minutes and the rest of the movie, but it's so weak and it's so shoehorned in that there really isn't much point to it. And that's how the movie started, and it bored me to tears just the way it started. No traffic on the road here at all, which is interesting. And I just throttled down a little bit because I spotted this fairly high hill over there, and I'm wondering whether the shrine is up on top of that hill or a hill connected to it. But I think I'm heading towards something that looks like that. That hill I just saw, I just checked Google Maps, and that is where the shrine is located. So that's kind of cool. And I just have to follow this road another half a kilometer or so, and then there should be an access road to the entrance to the temple. I don't know if there's a temple building connected with this shrine, because the shrine is where the boulder is, that gold-covered, gold-painted boulder that's sitting on an edge. I'm also interested to see whether the boulder is sitting free, because in some pictures I looked at, it's just sort of sitting there, balanced. And in other pictures, it has a scaffolding sort of holding it up. So maybe they were worried it was going to fall over and they gave it some supports. Is that cheating with one of these boulders? Or maybe the scaffolding was just there for some painting. I don't know. That's one interesting thing about the internet, I guess, in general, and Google Maps. You're looking at photographs, but of course they could be very recent photographs or they could be old ones. You're looking at things from a point in time in the past, and things might have changed quite a bit since that satellite view was taken or that tourism picture was taken. You just never know. Whew. The back of my neck. It doesn't feel that hot. It doesn't feel that bad, but I'm a little worried about it. If I could figure out a way to cover it up, I would, but and it is hot out here today, I'll tell you that. My GoPros, I said I wouldn't talk about them very much on this trip, and I don't think I have, but they have overheated several times so far in this sun, and they just overheat and shut down in the middle of filming. Ooh, there's a big truck coming. I find that kind of interesting that I do tend to buy things that are, I don't have a really rugged lifestyle, but I do tend to buy things that are built for people with a rugged lifestyle. So a GoPro, you would think, is designed for tough environments, and I don't even live a tough life, and yet even my GoPros can't handle the heat of Thailand. Everything I own falls apart in Southeast Asia, just not built for the heat or the humidity. So maybe my life is a bit tougher than I realize. Everything I own just falls apart. Just kind of surprising that the GoPro has so much trouble dealing with this heat, because it is, as I said, kind of designed for an outdoor life. Anyway, I was talking about Wonder Woman 84. I could go on for 3 hours about all the things that were so horrible about this movie, but I won't go into it too much because people on YouTube have done it. The people who hate the movie really hate the movie, and there's YouTube videos that are 40, 50 minutes long of people tearing this movie to pieces. Other people seem to like it just fine, but I'm definitely in the camp that did not like it at all. Made no sense that I could see. There was no logic in the story. And that is a big problem for me. I'm a very logical person, I think. And for me to believe a story, things have to make sense. And the decisions that the characters make have to make sense. They have to feel right to me. And everything that happened in the movie was just driven by the plot. Like, They wanted this to happen, so it just happened whether it made sense or not. And characters made decisions just so they could have this big fight sequence or this big action thing, and yet it added nothing to the movie and was kind of pointless. Anyway, I could go on and on. I was amazed at how bad it was and the ways in which it was bad. Oh, look at this. Quite a nice sign for where I believe I'm trying to go. And there, of course, you can now see. Let me get a bit closer. And oh, I thought I could easily pop off my GoPro, but it's not as easy as I thought. So there is the sign and the name of the temple, Phrathat Hin Kyo Adwa Din Chi. Oh, it even has a sign, a label there, Department of Tourism. And as I said, I believe the shrine itself is on the top of that hill right to our left. And the turnoff is 500 meters ahead. And just to get the taste of Wonder Woman 84 out of my mouth, I watched a movie called Fatman. And Fatman, it stars Mel Gibson and Walter Goggins and Jean-Baptiste, Marianne Jean-Baptiste is also in it. All very good actors in their own way. And it's a very strange story. It's a kind of movie that could easily be a disaster because the story is so bizarre. Everything could go wrong quite easily. And it's essentially the story of a young boy who hires a hitman, an assassin, to kill Santa Claus. And it goes from there. But they handled it really, really well, I thought. It's a funny movie. And it's so weird that it shouldn't work at all. And yet I thought it worked really well. The idea of having Santa Claus in our world as a real person kind of living here. And yet he has powers, kind of like a superhero. I'm thinking I should call myself Mr. Adapter or something like that, because my entire life seems to be the search, an endless search for adapters.